Let's see where else we can go. Why not? Oh, I don't know. What about maybe Steve from Illinois? Steve
Hey,
from
David, how you
Illinois.
doing?
Yes, you're on the air.
Can you hear me all right?
I can.
I was just wondering, were you thinking of the recent story about Biden opening up the Russian pipeline for Germany?
Oh, I haven't even been following it. Did he say he wants to do that?
Reports are saying that he's leaning towards lifting the restrictions or the sanctions on it to open it back up.
I did not see that. I'll have to. I wish I could say I don't know enough about it. I'm gonna have to check on that.
Okay,
What's
and
your
then
opinion? Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
oh, sorry. I just find it. I don't know. I find it kind of odd. I don't know much information on it. It seems kind of like an odd move. Odd move to me. I don't know. I'm not saying there's anything nefarious. It just seems like a weird move to me.
I'll research it and follow up.
The only other kind of question I had is, again, I listen to your show. I'm more right leaning, but like listening to your show because I feel like you're very intelligent and kind of know what you're talking about. I understand you and your fans' hatred of Fox, but I'm just wondering. I mean, if you watch CNN or MSNBC, they like say a lot of nonsense as well. So is it like they understand there's nonsense on both sides, but they just don't like the nonsense on Fox News, or do they fall in the line and not realize that like a lot of major cable news networks are spewing a lot of nonsense out
Well,
there?
as far as my audience is concerned, you'd have to ask them. My view is that certainly MSNBC and CNN have corporate bias and they have advertiser bias and they have a lot of the types of bias that exist. But they are not promoting, just out and out conspiracy stuff like having guest after guest for 2 months making completely bogus claims about the election or pushing hydroxychloroquine for months, even when, randomized controlled trials say it doesn't work on coronavirus. It's just it's a different caliber altogether. But I think that there's many criticisms of CNN and MSNBC. They're just different than that of Fox.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's totally understandable. I see, I guess, different levels of conspiracy slash like stuff on those other shows. I guess just from my side on things, but I totally
Like, what's a
understand what you're saying
conspiracy
on
from CNN?
that. Sorry, I don't have one off the top of my head. I know, like watching it. I mean, I'm not gonna like. I know sciences, but I mean, they were going on a whole when the CDC was talking about lifting the mask mandates. I know a bunch of. I know watched Joy Reid talk about how she's wearing 2 masks when she runs outside on there, and to wear a mask when you're vaccinated, even though the CDC was coming out and saying you don't need to wear that. So it just seems like they're going anti-science from what the CDC's going in on
Okay,
there.
yeah,
And
she's on
then CNN,
MSNBC, I think. I mean, I would be interested in seeing that. If that's what she
and
said,
then,
then that would be not in line with the science. But I think it's different
and
than
then
saying, like, take
I mean,
hydroxychloroquine. But
CNN had Governor Cuomo on praising him, and then there's all these reports about the nursing homes and everything like that, not questioning him on anything on that.
okay, I don't know the
Have you
timing of
guys done
that.
like
We
that?
covered the nursing home scandal when I learned of it.
I'm not saying you.
So
I'm not saying you. I'm not
yeah,
saying.
no, I
I've
got it.
never.
I
I'm
got
not
it.
saying you.
Yeah, like
I'm
I
just
said, I mean,
saying
listen,
like.
there's fair criticisms of MSNBC and CNN, and the two you just pointed out, if you're describing them accurately and the timing is as you describe, I would be on board with you on those criticisms.
Okay, no, I was just trying to see what you thought of, if you thought there was any criticisms on the other side. I know you kind of focus on Fox, but
Yeah.
kind of seeing if you saw any criticisms on the other side.
The two that you're mentioning, if they are as you describe, I probably would agree with you.
I appreciate your time, David. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. See, reasonable caller. We're getting along with a right winger. It's all great. All right, everybody. Thank you for calling in. I cannot get to any more calls today, but I will take more calls soon. Thank you.